Hi, Sandi Maki here with a little bit of heavy breathing, rated E for everyone, just before midnight. Today was a busy day, full of philosophy, adventure, some marketing thrown in here and there, and discussion about books, writing books and marketing books. This topic is on my mind because I have several friends that have written books, and I would love nothing more than to see them sell as many books as they could possibly imagine. Well, we were talking about different marketing ideas for books and just how to tell the story about the story that you can get in a book. There's so many titles available. Sometimes it's hard to know just where to start. There's going to be a bonus track right after this episode of Heavy Breathing, and it's going to be the first chapter of a book that a friend of mine wrote. Her name is Thuan Tammy Fadler, and she immigrated from Vietnam in her early 20s. And she tells stories in this book. It's called Finding the Pearl. She tells stories of her childhood. And I'll tell you, before reading the book, I thought Tammy was fantastic. And after reading her stories, the significance of what this woman has done really started to make so much more sense to me. And it's amazing to me what we each potentially have within us, and what so many of us maybe struggle with to pull forward. And for some people, it seems as if it's effortless to make things happen. So I hope that you'll enjoy the first chapter of the book. Tammy did ask me if I would do the audio version for her book, and I decided I needed to practice a little bit. I also needed to run through it to see if I could handle some of the pronunciation. So please forgive me if that's not all proper, because I just gave it my best guess, not being fluent in the language, but I will definitely clean it up before I do it. But I know you've heard me talk about her book before, and I've shared some things that have been written about it. But I think you'll agree with me. Once you listen to the first chapter, you will be hooked at this fantastic story. So enjoy that in just a bit. Until then, I would like to read you something else. And this something else comes from a compilation of material that we began putting together to share the story of the Insights Masterminding experience. And we do intend to put this in a book that we will publish. We've compiled just over a dozen stories at this point. And then Al and I are going to add some of our personal insights. And we thought maybe it would become the bookends. I'm thinking maybe it'll become more than that, because I'd like to read you one of the submissions and then share with you some thoughts. It's titled, Raw. Masterminding strips me raw, slices through to bone. It humbles my ego, pinches my sacred beliefs, and punches my dreams in the face. It's agonizing ecstasy. One wintry evening, after a full day of working a big writing project in my little yellow office, I came out to the common space at the Insights office and hit the couch, waiting for the mastermind group to gather. It was my third or fourth meeting with this group of people. I was drained from the busy work of the day and wondering if I had the momentum to get through the mastermind meeting. My thoughts were on the holidays looming, and the thoughts were of the dark variety. Spending the holidays sans partner was not exactly inspiring joy. Suck it up. You need this, I chided myself. The group gathered one by one, some making cups of coffee, others choosing stronger drinks. I think I had vodka and decaf that night, but now I can't be sure. After our customary good news share, things got real, quickly. I was still feeling my way with this new group of people, and while I trusted them, I wasn't sure how deeply the trust went, and how they actually felt about me and my presence in their group. I was still tentative about being authentic, and probably didn't even know what that meant yet. I don't remember most of the conversation. I don't know how the focus shifted to me and my baggage and my dark cave mentality. I do remember Al challenging me to say I loved myself. I was wearing a black turtleneck, and my first reaction was to pull it up over my face and hide. He was relentless. Say, I love myself, he insisted. I did. He said not good enough. I tried again. Make me believe it. Al was on the edge of his seat by this point, and it was clear he was not giving up on this. I love myself. Awkward. I love myself. Less awkward, but feels wrong somehow, egotistical. I love myself. Wait, I love myself. Really? I love myself? Yeah. Oh, I love myself. Finally, I love myself. Yes, that self, her, the she within that had been papered over for years by expectations, busyness, and the clutter of surface dwelling. Al sat back. The group started breathing again, and I fell back into the couch cushions, exhausted but finally understanding. She was beyond what I could imagine being, yet somehow in the shared mind space of this mastermind group, I saw her and recognized her and fell in love with her. In that moment, pretense was stripped away. It was no longer necessary, and in fact, I saw it for what it was, an excuse, a cover, a shield. Ego took a back seat to a deeper understanding, and the raw wound of rejection and failure began to heal. In its place formed a new kind of raw, bare, exposed, nerves touched by fire and ice at the merest whisper, and solid, pure, a crucible into which ego is poured and essence extracted. Why go through the pain of learning and growth? Why not stay where it's comfortable and safe and dry? Because to continue to do so becomes something akin to moving a joint that is covered in scar tissue. It's painful to be that way. Not the sharp, raw pain of exposed nerves, but a constricted tightness that aches to break free. It doesn't matter why the scars formed, what the story is behind their existence. What matters is simply bursting them wide open, tearing them open for the wind and the rain of authenticity to lash at. This hurts. The pain becomes bearable as the fresh wound becomes desensitized. I realize, at some point, that it only hurts because I believe it does. I come to understand that I can change my story, write my new life, be the author of my amazing destiny, and create exactly the life I intend out of thin air. This is the stuff of miracles, of everyday coincidences, seen as perfect manifestations, leading me to the fulfillment of my desires. My path is not clear. It's easy to find it cluttered by too many decisions to see clearly which to choose as I walk. That's not mine to decide. Through masterminding, I've learned to see the end of the path, envision the me that I intend to be, meet the she I fell in love with. As I keep my eyes firmly fixed on her, the choices along the path are largely irrelevant and fall to the wayside like the leaves kicked up on a sidewalk. Thoughts become things. I become who I think I am. Simple brilliance, and the truth is clear. Initially, I staggered under the weight of that responsibility. Now I dance in it, delighting that it is this simple. Not every day flows. My human condition foists its emotions and reactions on my intentions. That's fine too. That's who I am. I have not yet imagined my final incarnation, and I'm patient to see how this develops. In the creation of a life well lived, I accept this responsibility and move ahead in bliss. I love myself. Awkward. I love myself. Less awkward, but feels wrong somehow, egotistical. I love myself. Wait, I love myself. Really? I love myself? Yeah. Oh, I love myself. Finally, I love myself. Yes, that self, her, the she within that had been papered over for years by expectations, busyness, and the clutter of surface dwelling. So I've got to tell you, when I read these compilations and submissions that our mastermind members have sent in, it does so much for me in answering a lot of questions. The journey of the Insights group, while we celebrate it and appreciate it for what it is, has been, was, and continues to be, it hasn't always been easy. When Al and I started the idea for the Insights group, I don't even think that I had a clear handle on what it was to be. We thought we'd have business meetings, wrapped in with philosophy, and help motivate and inspire people. My role within the Insights group was not going to be the speaker. That's why my title was First Lady, and Al got the title of Orator, or the Talker, because he does have a way with words, and he has a way of introducing concepts and ideas to people that help create a new awareness. Well, we got started with the Insights group in 2008, and in those early months, Insights began working on me as much as I was working on it. And things quickly started changing, and we went from what we thought the idea was going to be to something much more. And it finally came around and settled on the idea of masterminding. In putting the mastermind groups together, we followed some loose guidelines that we were able to compile from people that had been involved in mastermind groups that we could find documented information on. Because it's Insights and we wanted it to be fresh, fun, quirky, and really not have a lot of rules, we tried to put them together with guidelines, but knowing that we were bringing people into the groups and it needed to be managed conversation somehow. So we put together those guidelines and we limited the groups to 12 people. And at one point, we had 6 mastermind groups going on, and these groups met every week for an hour and a half apiece, and Al and I were members of every single group. There were a few other people that were members of multiple groups, and an hour and a half of pretty heavy-duty discussion, philosophy, masterminding, it can exhilarate you sometimes and leave you fully exhausted in others. And part of what reading these compilations has done for me is remind me how valuable the experience was, not just for me, but for everyone who came. And that was really part of the secret of the groups. When you came to a meeting to participate, experience, be in the moment, and give, it was always worthwhile. Sometimes if there wasn't a fit and people were wondering about what they would be getting, they wouldn't find anything that they were looking for in the meeting. But people who came without expectation, other than the expectation that it would be exactly what it was and it would be wonderful, that was rewarded. Well, for a while, week in and week out, with the drama that people have in their lives, I always enjoyed the masterminding experience, and yet it became daunting at times. And because I took so much responsibility for the Insights experience in general, I wanted every person who walked in those doors to find a piece of something that they needed, that I shouldered a whole lot of responsibility. And part of what reading these stories has done for me, because through some of them I burst into tears, I had no idea in a lot of cases just how profound and helpful being a part of the experience was. And that's so humbling to know that I was a part of it. And the days that I felt extreme bliss were amazing. And the days when I felt like there was more that I needed to be giving, after reading these reflections and knowing that it wasn't just one moment in any given day, but it was a compilation of many moments, incremental moments over a longer period of time that made a difference, I realized just how important and how special that time really is. And we still do have mastermind groups. We currently have 2 going. We no longer have 6. 6, I think, in the right circumstances, worked just fine. But the way that life has continued to unfold for me and for so many others that have experienced the group, we're doing plenty right now at the moment. And as much as we can look back on moments and realize the profound shifts that happen in those places and in those spaces, we have to remember that they're happening every day. And it doesn't have to be as part of an official mastermind group when the breakthroughs can happen and when that mind share and empowerment can come together. We can tap into it every day in anything that we're doing when we find a need. And I'm reminded of that as I read through these stories. We just have to remind ourselves that sometimes we need to surround ourselves with people who will help us remember if we maybe become confused or clouded or guarded. The Insights group started out to share philosophy and help people accept their world a little better and make sense of it as much as they could or wanted to or needed to at the moment. And then it was meant to spread. It was meant to allow them to take their good feelings and in turn share it with others. So the spirit of the Insights group that really started in a physical building that held space for people to come together to tell their stories and share with each other really multiplied into something so much bigger than any one of us could even gather. When Al and I started the Insights group, we had a noble purpose in mind. It was to change the world, make it a little bit happier. We had our ups and downs. We had some really grand times, and we had times when we struggled, wondering if it was the right thing, if we were doing enough. And from the early days when we started it and we first introduced the mastermind groups and the concept, I realized that together Al and I held space for a lot of people to be able to find a place to open that portal to masterminding within themselves. And then what we found is through the process, instead of us needing to hold space for so many people, people began holding space for each other and then holding space for us. So instead of us feeling like we had the weight of the world on our shoulders, we were able to join arms with each other. And we all held each other up. And we continue to do that today. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of my life and my experiences. Know that I have really good days and really happy days. And there are some days when I struggle with purpose, with focus, with motivation, and with keeping my spirit up. And it's knowing that I can look to the left, to the right, sideways and backwards, and know that there's people that share a philosophy of abundance and goodness in this world. And that's what I can look to for inspiration.